Welcome back to the Peruvian Waltz podcast. I'm your host Brian Birdie, and we're back 10 minutes early. So you got an early podcast. The reason I'm starting early is because I got to do some things at 11. But otherwise, we're here early, and let's get going. Let's just get straight into it. So first, Peter Galindo, our lovely co-host, is back at last. You can explain yourself, Peter. You don't really have to, but yeah, he's back.
Yeah, I basically had the bubonic plague for like a month, and I was incapacitated for a long time, but I am now back, and I'm happy to be back, so thank you.
All right, and joining us again from the last pod, and like I said, he's become a panelist. He wasn't just a guest replacing Peter. We have Kevin Montalvan. How are you, Kevin?
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right. So, first of all, I just want to say, I probably shouldn't be saying this, to be honest, but I just want to say apologize if I do get distracted at times because I have the Noche Blanquisou right next to me. So, I'll probably update as that goes on. It's no at the moment. But most importantly, we won't talk about that now. Maybe we can briefly mention it, but for now, we're going to talk about the most important things, the more important things, rather, that need to be discussed, such as, first of all, the Copa America draw. Now, 2 weeks ago, I said that we were going to do a live draw reaction, but I was stupid and thought the Rio de Janeiro was 2 hours ahead. It's actually 3 hours ahead from Lima, and because of that, I realized that last minute, and by then it was too late. I wasn't able to tell everyone to get on. So, it was basically impossible. So we couldn't do the live draw. So we're just gonna talk about it here, our opinions. So Peru's in a group with Brazil again. Venezuela and Bolivia, almost identical to our 2015 group, just without Colombia. So, initial thoughts. I'll let Kevin go first. What are your initial thoughts on this group?
So I had that good feeling we were gonna get Brazil. It was like we keep getting them. It's like fate draws us together. and then aside from that, it's good to face Venezuela again. They were a decent side when we faced them in 2015 Copa America, and been frustrating the whole eliminatorias on the way to the World Cup.
Yes, go on. Sorry about that.
Oh no! I was just gonna say I was just gonna throw in Bolivia in there, and they're also a frustrating side. We'll see how they come out.
Yes, go on. Sorry about that. All right, Peter, what are your thoughts on this group? Overall, your initial thoughts, rather.
Much like Kevin and I think every other Peruvian watching, I think getting Brazil was inevitable given how the last couple of tournaments have gone, the last couple of draws have gone. And I was thinking to myself beforehand, I think Peru will be happy with Brazil as long as they avoid Japan in pot 3, and that's exactly what happened. They got Venezuela and then obviously Bolivia out of pot 4. And by far and away, this is, at least on paper, the easiest group of the 3. Group C looks incredibly difficult. You could see any of those teams really missing out on the quarterfinals. Venezuela could be tricky, as Kevin mentioned, because, we saw how they really frustrated Peru during the qualifiers and in the Copa America 4 years ago. So really, it's not like a flat-out easy draw for Peru, especially because given the fact that we suffer all the time, it's probably not going to be very straightforward, but it does give Peru a very good chance of at least getting into the quarterfinals as a runner-up, which would line us up to face, I believe it would be either Argentina, Colombia, or Paraguay, whoever finishes second in Group B. But then that leads to a potential semifinal against Brazil, and by then it could be over. We'll see. But obviously, with the tournament being 5 months away, it's difficult to predict these things. But certainly on the surface, this was a really great situation for Peru, which I think we seldom kind of see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is definitely the easiest group of the 3. Oh, just having a sip. All right. Okay, so I think this is definitely the easiest group of the 3, like I mentioned. I agree with you on Group C, especially because Ecuador is always our black sheep. Like they always find a way to beat us. I know we have a good record against them in the Gareca era, but we gotta remember before that, and even the last friendly, their style does not comfort us. Like them in Colombia, and if we beat Ecuador, it's just because of the better quality, etc. But they do know how to beat us. That's the point I'm trying to make, and it's always in everything. Ecuador and Colombia was beat us in everything, not just at senior level. So, anyways, yeah, I think that getting Brazil is very good for us because we're obviously going to lose that game. I mean, Brazil is going to win the tournament. Brazil is going to win the tournament. I'm confident they're going to win. But I think the good thing about getting Brazil was that we avoid them in the second round. Now, the bad thing is that most likely if we go through, we'll meet them in the semifinals. So I think that it's unlikely for us to get to the final this time. I mean, you can always have faith with how well Peru has played in the last few years. It's always possible, but if we meet Brazil anywhere along the line, I won't have much faith at all because we're not that sort of style that is to beat Brazil away from home. That's more you give it to Uruguay or Paraguay, like Garra Charru or Garra Guarani. I don't see Peru having that style to be able to defeat Brazil away from home. And besides, I feel like if we do beat Brazil, it's only going to be once. So if we do beat them, I'd rather it be in the knockout stages. If we do, I have to beat them at one point. Because beating Brazil more than once for a team like Peru, it's difficult. Or more than once in a year, rather. So, yeah, no, I'm personally happy we're going to avoid Brazil in the second round. I think we have a good run to the semifinals. It really depends on who our opponents in the second round, but I think it is favorable. I think it's going to be favorable for us. And, yeah, as for the other two, Venezuela and Bolivia, Venezuela are obviously on an upward spiral. They have a lot of good young players. But I still think it's a bit too soon for them. I think that they might go through a third place, but I think should have no problems with them. And Bolivia, neutral ground, usually don't do very well. So yeah, they did won the last Copa America, the last proper one rather. No, I guess 2016 was proper too, but like the last South American based Copa America, they did all right. They exceed expectations. So we can't underestimate them as always, but I think we'll be fine in that game as well. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so. The problem is, though, is that because it's 5 months away, so much can change. But I think the positive thing is, if you look back to before the World Cup for Peru, one big reason why I think they struggled so much, at least to pick up the results and maybe grind out a win, is a lot of their starting players were out of form. Like, think about the players who were coming in kind of cold, right? Trauco, Advíncula didn't really finish the season well at Lobos, Edison Flores. Christian Cueva wasn't really playing too much either. He had a good World Cup, don't get me wrong, but still came in cold, as did Andre Carrillo, but again, good World Cup. Paolo, we know the problems he had, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This time around, a lot of those same Peruvian players who were kind of struggling entering the World Cup are currently in really good form, right? Even Miguel Trauco is playing well. Assisted yesterday, which Brian tweeted out. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was actually very nice.
He has two assists. He has two assists so far. In both of the games he started, he has 2 assists.
Yes. So maybe that's a sign that things are going well for him, and therefore it might end up going well for him in the next few months, therefore leading to a strong display at Copa America. But again, 5 months is a long time. We know that a lot of players' form can really differ from week to week. But if the players can kind of stay on this trajectory, then I think Peru stands a very good chance of making it to a semifinal. And maybe if they face Brazil and let's say Neymar's foot injury is bothering him, who knows? In one game, maybe they cause the shock of the tournament, and maybe you could even argue the shock of, well, the last however many years. But maybe a bit of a pipe dream at this point.
Okay, so yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. I think that I think that the problem is that the problem with at least the friendlies, like you said, it was they were not informed, like you said. But I also think that they're just friendlies. I mean, you got to think of. I always think of Chile. Like Chile was in atrocious form right after their World Cup in 2014. Right before the Copa America, I think they lost to Jamaica that year at home.
Yeah, they did.
So and then they went on to win the tournament. So they're just friendlies. They're just experiments, and I think Peru will be fine. I think they're still a good team. I think that I still think we're a good team. I still think we haven't regressed, maybe a little bit without the defensive. I guess it's defensive solidness of someone like Alberto Rodriguez, which we're going to miss a little bit. But at the very least, we have a lot of good center backs. Abram is. I was looking earlier at some of the players and some of the agencies. I'm not too convinced as Abram's agent, but he does have an EU passport, so that really helps him for to get a move to Europe. And I think that he could get a move to Europe after the Copa America. So then we have Santa Maria, who is, in my opinion, a sensational center back. The problem is, at least when it comes to Europe, he's not going to get a move because he's too old now. He's too unproven, and there's also a long way to go before the European clubs can convince him. By the time he might be playing at a big club, he's probably going to be 28. So I think he's going to stay in the Americas at this point. But he's a very good center back, and he's had a bit of a rough start at Atlas, but he's on an upward spiral. So
yeah, he's been a lot better now, which is good.
Yeah, he started off kind of rough from what the early games I've seen. He was kind of shaky, but he's getting a lot better. He was clearly the last team of the week, so that's always a good sign. All right, well, let's let Kevin get some more in-depth opinions on him. On the draw. What do you think of what we just said?
So, I mean, as far as the players, definitely they look like they're getting more minutes. They should be more fit for this, and Gareca's good with managing that time. You know, like that 2-3 weeks right before a tournament, getting everyone right into form. But what I wanted to talk about was the fixture. I think we face Venezuela, Bolivia, and then Brazil.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
So I think we just, we are. There's no reason to not get out of this group. With all respect, to our opponents. But even as best third, what I'm saying is we got to wrap up those first two matches, Venezuela and Bolivia. However, if you need to grind out a result, if you need to, because I saw Bolivia and I expect them to park the bus on us. I think people have seen that that's been very effective against us, and I think that those are the two main matches to wrap up.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that well, first of all, I did want to say something. I just wanted to say that something that's been bothering me a little bit, and I think Peter knows what it is. So basically, Gareca got a few questions in the press. I don't know what I didn't see the press conference, but I saw the quotes. Guys, can we just forget about Raymond Manco, okay? Please forget about it. He's not going to get called up. Gareca said that he's observing him. People can stop asking. He's not going to call him up. Let's forget about that. I wanted to say that for the Garcilaso talk, but just stop asking him. He's not going to call him up. End. Okay.
Hey, I won't count him out since he's doing pretty well in your 10-year predictions.
My 10-year predictions? I'm sorry, I have a short-term memory problem.
Aren't you doing like an FM thing? See what the league looks
yes,
like?
Yes. I forgot to do today's actually, but Raymond Manco is the manager in Alianza. As a manager, maybe he's okay, but as a player, I don't want him anywhere near the national team. So yeah, no. I guess that does bring up an interesting question though. First I just got an update. Cristal is losing 3-0 to Emelec.
Oh God.
I just want to get an update on that. But anyways, I guess the next question, and this is a question that we've asked pretty much every time Peru call-up is coming up. Who will be the interesting call-up? Who will be the call-up that people will not expect that will go to the Copa America or at least be part of the preliminary squad? Now, obviously, in 2016, there was a big change. We saw a lot of different players, including some of the preliminary squad, including like Julio Landauri, who I have no idea what Gareca was thinking by then, but he was on preliminary squad. But that's kind of what I'm going at. Who do you see in the squad that it will be a shock call-up? I mean, obviously, we see them in the Mars friendlies. You could say that as well, but let's just make a few bold predictions. What do you think, Peter?
I think, there are obviously a lot of possibilities here, but I think it obviously depends on, who really starts out strongly in the league. I could see someone domestically getting that call-up. And for me, only because he actually was called up but then pulled out with an injury back in November. Brian, you're going to love this. It could be Alexis Arias.
Yes.
It's clear that Gareca values him highly. I think he is the perfect vice Yotun, which we've both talked about, both in terms of playing style and if you just look at the stats, they're very similar. And he's obviously on his radar. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been called up in November. If it wasn't for that injury, he probably would have ended up starting the match in Arequipa against Costa Rica. Let's be perfectly honest. So I think that if he has a strong start to the season, it could end up being him for at least the March friendlies. And then if he keeps it going and he performs well, let's say he does get called up in March, performs admirably in that window, that probably boosts his chances of making the Copa America squad. So that will be my one bold prediction.
Well, I'll get three. They're not exactly bold, but none of these two are exactly bold predictions, but they're kind of players that I do expect to see in the Copa America squad, but I haven't exactly cut in before. One of them is self-explanatory. The other two are players that we've only seen brief call-ups. I'll start with the two I'm talking about: Alexis Arias and Marco Lopez. I think if Lopez starts at San Jose, which I think he will, and he does well, then I think he should be in the squad for the Copa America. Of course, he was disappointing in the U20s, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I do think I still have faith in him. I think he was just. I just think he was poorly managed there. But I think at San Jose, if he has a good start, then he will be called up for the Copa America, at least for the preliminary squad. Alexis Arias, I pretty much echo what Peter said. And the last call, it's always why they get called up. But Gabriel Costa is another example. Who, if he does well in the Chilean league, which not a good start for him, even if it's just friendlies. But apparently he's been a bit arrogant because of how I blame it on the press who are selling him out to be a Lionel Messi. That's what the Colombian press said about him. Literally, the headline was the Uruguayan that Chileans sell as Lionel Messi. That was the Colombian Caracol headline, which. If it's true, I haven't been paying attention to the Chilean press, but if it's true, then Costa's got to get a realistic factor to him because he's good, but you got to remember his numbers are in the Peruvian league and he's taking a step up. So we'll see how he does in the Chilean league. But he's another one that will call up. Last season, just those stats are brutal. He needs to be in the March finals at least, because it's just the start of the Chilean league and it's still early, so he needs to be there at least, I think. Yes, what was it, Peter?
Sorry, can confirm the Caracol headline is correct. That is exactly what it is.
Yes. Okay, so Kevin, what would you say?
So the first one I was gonna say was Costa, so I agree with you on that one. His numbers were pretty brutal for Cristal. He was definitely one of their main men. If for Cristal, it was neck and neck between who was more important. Herrera, Costa. And I definitely see him getting a shout in the March friendlies. But another guy that I would bet 5 cents on is Canchita Gonzalez.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, he was just called up, and he seems to be very polyfunctional. He can play on the left, could play as a 10 if we needed. And I feel like we haven't had like a natural like sub to Flores in a while, so he could be that guy.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I guess I guess there's not much else to say before we conclude the Copa America section. I just want to get a point out. This is not really Peru related, but I want to get a point out that it's interesting to see that the two Asian sides are both in the Asian Cup final, including Qatar. Qatar haven't conceded a single goal in the Asian Cup. And by the way, that's how it's pronounced. It's Qatar, not Qatar. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. But Japan, I can see Japan sending a weaker squad. It's possible, like Mexico do. I mean, it's on the other side of the world that they just played the Asian Cup. They're going to play the final. But Qatar, I think they're going to want to prove a point. So I think Qatar will send his first squad. And they have a few interesting players. I'm not going to talk about them much, but I just want to get out Ali Al-Moez. What a player he is! The 22-year-old forward from Qatar is really good. I can see him. I see a bright future for him. But this is not the Qatar football podcast. I just wanted to get that point out, kind of just like to conclude the Copa America sector. And we can move on to the more. I guess we can move on not to the more disappointing sector, the more disappointing sectors, because it's not just the U20s that's disappointed. But we're going to start with them. Now, I'm trying to remember, we left off right after the Paraguay match, I believe. And since then, we lost both games. Although, since then, Peru played a lot better. They've been let down by some poor. Well, Ecuador was a poor defending. Argentina was let down by just rushing the place and leaving a few men behind. But there was also really bad decision making in the Argentina game. We dominated that game, but there was not very many strong chances for Peru. It's kind of like the World Cup game against France. We dominated it, but there wasn't much to get excited about because there's not a lot of strong chances. So, Kevin, I'll let you go first. What do you think? If there are any positives to take from the G20?
I think that they came from less to more. They basically needed to build up their confidence to start playing their style. We saw it more against Ecuador. Unfortunately, that was our highest marginal loss, but you actually saw them playing, touching the ball, getting into dangerous positions. Mora was finally shining. Unfortunately, Ecuador is probably the most lethal side up front in this whole tournament. And then against Argentina, there was a good shout. We had good possession, transitions. It ain't click fast. No, it was like the senior said.
Well, in my opinion, I think that our best game was against Ecuador because against Ecuador we actually looked like we were creating things. Against Argentina, the decision making was so poor that it was all any chances to try and win the game were pretty much obsolete. So yeah, there was nothing. The best player for me in the whole tournament, or not the best player, the most consistent player was Sebastian Gonzalez, who really surprised me. I thought he never had any bad or good games. He played well in some games, but he never had any bad games particularly. Mora was part of the highest level player, but he did play poorly against Argentina and Uruguay. So I wouldn't say he was the most consistent. I'd say he was the one that rescued the rescue from the two particular games, but not the most consistent. That's my only concern. And Emil Franco was also pretty good, although in the Ecuador game he was badly positioned for a few of the goals. So Peter, what would you say about the G20? What positives do you take? What negatives? What worries you? And what gives you faith?
Oh boy, where do I start on the negatives? I'll start with the positives first because I feel like that'll be the shortest part of my answer. You mentioned Franco there kind of standing on his head. I do still have some issues with his technique. You did mention that he was out of position for a couple of those goals against Ecuador. He also doesn't really seem to have very good awareness. A ball, I believe, was against Argentina. Actually, it sailed over his head. It smacked the corner of the crossbar in the post, and then luckily went out. But I was kind of thinking to myself, why didn't you actually follow the ball and try to claim it or knock it out? Because you never know in that situation. But certainly, it was good to see a goalkeeper for Peru at least stand out in some way, because I think that was the one area of concern for the team entering that tournament. So it was good to see him at least shining in some moments. Also, Franco Medina, I think in the final two games, he was fantastic. Certainly an upgrade on Rojas. It's hard to do worse, but he actually had a proper first touch. He was getting in good positions. Defensively, he was a rock. Let's maybe chill a little bit on he's the future right back of La Selección, because he is not even a guaranteed starter for Alianza. So let's calm down a little bit on that. But certainly did do very well in those final two games against one, a very good opponent, and then number two against a not so great opponent, but at least did show himself well. In terms of the negatives, so a bit of backstory. Before this tournament, I was talking to my dad about all these players that Peru has in this under-20 squad and how much talent there is, and he wanted to watch the games. So after the third game, I believe it was against Ecuador actually, and he's saying to me, he's like, "Are you sure these players are as good as you think they are?" Because I am, and he doesn't follow them at all. He relies on me to update him on these things, and I'm like, "Yes, trust me, they're very good." He's like, "Do they play professionally?" Yes, they do. Most of them are regulars with their teams, and it was honestly baffling to see a group this talented who can play so poorly with such lackluster attack like this. And to me, I'm not someone who likes to really rely on this, because I feel like it's a very English way of thinking, because they love personalities and charisma, especially from their managers. But Daniel Ahmed is someone who does not really strike me as a guy who can really motivate young players. You watch his press conferences and I almost fall asleep. So imagine getting a team talk from this guy when you're down 2-0 and you need to get back into the game. I'm sure for the players, it's kind of okay, well, whatever. And tactically, we all know that he's very limited. And I think we saw that in the build-up to the tournament. This was a team that had a very similar playing style to what the senior team does, because Gareca wants everybody from the U15s all the way up to the senior team to play a similar system and style. For a year leading up to the tournament, whenever we saw the microcycles, Peru did that. The tournament starts, it's completely abandoned, which made zero sense to me. I can understand it for one game like Uruguay when you probably think you're going to be outclassed, but pretty much the rest of the tournament, outside of moments against Ecuador, you didn't really see that style of play implemented. And the issues that were plaguing them in every game, such as the opposition exploiting the flanks whenever Peru's fullbacks pushed up, that never got solved. There was zero midfield in the first two games, which was a huge issue. And there was no dynamism or off-the-ball movement in the attacking third. It was really, really shocking considering the amount of talent on this team. It's positive to see that Ahmed is not going to be sticking around as coach, at least if you believe certain reports. But I mean, frankly, he had such a talented group at his disposal. It's pretty inexcusable for him not to get more out of this group.
Yeah, there's two things that annoyed me a lot. First of all, the first thing that really annoyed me a lot was Christopher Olivares. Now, he did not play well against Paraguay. I think that is a given for us. The thing that annoyed me is that Ahmed seemed to completely erase him right after that first game, because I was expecting Olivares to come on as a sub, maybe re-impress like he did with Mora, but he didn't. He didn't come on as a sub in any of the games. He only played that one game against Paraguay, and that's it. He didn't come on as a sub, and that really annoyed me because he's the sort of player that we needed to. I mean, I know the league. He sometimes is a little bit arrogant. He tries to do little flexing tricks instead of scoring goals, but he's still a very talented player, and I think he deserves more of a chance. Just because he had one bad game doesn't mean he shouldn't have gotten a chance. Now that's not really contradicting me, because I think Gonzalez set out showed a lot this season, or not this season, but this tournament rather. But you could at least put a second forward, at least against Argentina, where you most needed it. So yeah, and then there's the other thing that annoyed me was Dylan Caro. Now Dylan Caro is a good player for Unión Guaral, and he probably has a future in the Primera División. The problem is that the Segunda División is almost an amateur league. Let's be fair.
Oh, yeah.
I mean that might be excusable in the U17s and U15s where everyone's still playing at youth level, but in the U20s, most players are already playing professionally. And Dylan Caro, he goes from playing against Cultural Santa Rosa to playing against players from Boca Juniors or River Plate. And that's just unfair. Like, I don't think he was the right choice for this one. I mean, like I said, I have seen him a few times for Guaral, and I do think he's a good player. But I don't think he was ready for this kind of tournament, and it really showed. Where he was beaten pretty much all the time by every single team. So I think that that is something that does worry me a little bit. And I agree with everything Peter said. Kevin, do you have anything else to say before we move on?
So I think that Ahmed is he's a good administrator. Like he's done pretty good work, scouting and in the provinces and bringing more people to the professional teams and promoting, the more youth divisions like U13, U15, like. But I guess he was lacking a bit maybe in the dressing room, or maybe in motivating his team, because I think they had an idea. I think they had plenty of friendlies with decent results. I think we saw over like the course of the year. So something had to have fallen apart during the tournament. And I think that whether or not, he has a contract for the rest of the year or longer, maybe we could look at another coach that has more success with younger sides, like maybe San Martin's coach Bustos, since he has like half of the team anyway. Just throwing that out there.
It's a good suggestion. I mean, when you have half the team, you already know the players. Might as well, right?
Right. And I mean, we took Silvestri from Cantolao for the U17.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That is one thing that does get me a little bit excited, but I'll get onto more of that another time.
Okay. So that's it for me as far as the U20s. I think the kids still have potential, especially in first division, but it was a little bit disappointing to see them not click in this tournament.
Yeah, no, very much so. And I also wanted to say that and this kind of transitions us to the next little bit, which I guess here when we saw him a step up, no last minute goal. So you know what? At least we didn't see that. And that transitions us to the next bit. Now, Peter, there's a special day next week. I want to say there's a special day next week.
Yes, there is, actually.
Next week is Groundhog Day.
Yeah, Peru's favorite holiday, Peruvian football's favorite holiday.
Okay, well, let's go over Garcilaso versus Lawano. Before we go to the review. Now, I unfortunately did not. Well, no, better said, fortunately, I was not able to see the Lawano goal because I was invited to eat some chifa with my family. So I stopped watching on the 75th minute. Got the game elsewhere on the radio, and then the thing cut out right before the last minute goal. So I look at the group and see that Joe said, "Oh no, choke," and then I'm like, "What happened?" And I thought it was a penalty, but no, they scored. And then later I saw the goal, and it was a pretty bad mistake from Duranto, who, let's be fair, we praised him a lot. He is a good player, but he's been on a downward spiral since Tabaré Silva joined. He's not been the same player. And if Tapia sticks around, then he might improve again, but he has been on a downward spiral, unfortunately. And he cost Garcilaso the game. Although I never understood this Peruvian mentality that they had to sit back after the second goal. I mean, they could have easily gone for the third goal and liquidated it. That's why I think. I mean, I know it's always risky, but sometimes attack can be the best form of defense. So, like, all they really did was keep the ball and liquidate the game. They scored the second goal, I think, in like the 70th minute. I don't remember exactly the minute they scored in, but they had like 20 minutes to do something else. I mean, if they scored in the 75th minute, you could have at least gone for another one. But if you let them score in the last minute of the game, there's no chance you can get back into it. So that's what annoyed me the most. Now, as for the tie itself, I think Garcilaso did show some signs of being promising, but they still lack something. And I'm not sure what it is, to be honest. I think the new signings have, not just Carando, but I think the new signings have looked impressive. But I think Garcilaso is going to have a good campaign in the league. But yeah, this is very disappointing. And their front office is probably not very happy right now. I'll say that much.
Oof. Yeah, definitely. And they're not known for their patience. So, so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the Garcilaso's coach last too long. But
I kind of hope he doesn't. He's a very average coach, but at the very least, we got to give him some time.
Of course.
Yeah, we do.
He can prove us wrong.
Yeah, he could. Look, Garcilaso, to me, they lost this game in La Guaira last week.
Yes. Absolutely.
I mean, it's so obvious that they had numerous chances, especially in the first half, to pull ahead. Even if they had just gotten the 0-0 draw, okay, that's not a great result when you're the away team and you're going back home. But considering your home is in Cusco, where basically you're up 1-0 before the game even starts because of the altitude, that wouldn't have been a terrible result to take back. Yes, the new signings need to be bled in a little bit more. They need to get used to the system and whatnot. Obviously, Tapia is a new coach, so he's got to get his style across, which takes a few months. So Garcilaso might end up maybe around like April, May, really start hitting their stride, but they still had plenty of opportunities to win that game in La Guaira. Never mind be able to hold on to a 2-0 lead and be able to advance. I mean, they had 13 shots in the first game, which was level with La Guaira, and I believe the vast majority of those came in the first half. But the problem is when your two attacking strategies are knocking it long to Carando or pumping in crosses to Carando versus a deep block, you're not going to get very good results. That doesn't mean don't play a counterattacking style. That doesn't mean knock it long. That doesn't mean don't knock it long, because obviously you want to tire out the opposition, especially when La Guaira were just coming back from La Paz and we're not at all used to playing at sea level, basically. But you have to have a little more improvisation. Ramua, to me, was just looking for that killer through ball way too many times, when I think just keeping possession and passing it around and tiring out the opposition might have been the way to go. But it's just so classic that the one time Duranto commits that slip, it's in the final minute, and of course the ball from a tight angle becomes a goal with 1 minute to go. Like it's just, you can't write this stuff sometimes. Like I was honestly chuckling to myself at my office watching that last minute goal go in. I'm just thinking, of course, that Gustavo Dulanto will slip in that very exact moment. Like, it wouldn't be Peruvian football without a moment like that. I'm sorry. It was Groundhog Day all over again.
Absolutely, yes. It came a week early, I have to say. And next week Melgar plays, so maybe we'll have an actual Groundhog Day moment.
It's true, actually, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, Garcilaso were overall Garcilaso were unconvincing to the two legs, but at the same time, we can't read too much into that because at least not for the league, anyways. Because you got to think that Venezuelan football has started. Peruvian football still starts in 2 weeks. So I guess it won't affect Melgar too much. I'll get into that when we get there. But Garcilaso versus La Guaira did affect him a little bit, I think. And like you said, the new side stopped. They stopped the Joe, and I think they look good for what it's worth. And at least Tortapio was able to rectify the error of Joel Herrera not playing in the second leg because he had no reason to start in the first leg to begin with. All right, Kevin, what do you think of the game? I haven't let you talk yet. What do you think? So,
I mean, I'm just caught in thinking, sometimes Peruvian teams are just cursed. It's just I don't know what we did to the Libertadores for them to feel this way towards us, but while obviously Dulanto's thing is unfortunate, his last second, I think I'd be more mad at Carando since he's actually he's supposed to be their goal scorer. He's supposed to be the one that has it in the bag for them. He's their big signing, right?
Yeah.
And this guy gets a red in what, 50, 60th minute? Something like that?
Not even 39th minute, I think it was.
Oish.
Yeah, for an elbow.
Come on.
Yeah. Not ideal at all when you're chasing a goal in an important game.
I think they were level at that point. He had just gotten a goal like knocked off, discounted for offside.
Yeah,
Garcilaso was hot. I thought they were gonna just keep pumping, the Venezuelan defense, and then out of nowhere, red card, and I could see it all turning into the story we've seen so many times.
Well, the other thing I wanted to note, and then we can move on to Melgar versus what's it called? Melgar versus Chile. The other thing I wanted to note is that Garcilaso, after Manco's goal, which is a really good goal, by the way, credit where it's due. I think Manco is not that good, but credit where it's due. Like that was a very good goal. That was an intelligent goal. He saw a keeper on his line and he hit it spectacularly. But after that goal, Garcilaso really let La Guaira back into it. Before that, they were totally dominant, but it seems that they got a little complacent or they wanted to force penalties or something. I don't know what the deal was, but La Guaira did get back into that after the goal. And then the red card happened, and then the second half, it was kind of the same story, but they had their moments of dominance, like always. And I do think that Garcilaso could have done more. Like I said, they really should have liquidated the game when it was 2-0. They should have tried to score the third goal. It was definitely possible, especially after Suano's red card. There was no reason for them to do it after. But Garcilaso were their own. They undid themselves really. And this is the third year in a row that Peruvian goes out in the first round after this is the third year in a row that Peruvian goes out in the third round near the end of the game, in the first round anyways. Deportivo Municipal lost Independiente del Valle last minute. La U lost the latter stages of the game. So the Petrolero and now Garcilaso. Why always us? It's a classic Peruvian way. Like Peter said, you can't make this stuff up.
Nope, you cannot.
Okay, well. Anyways, Melgar versus Chile now. I am a little bit more optimistic than I would have been a few weeks ago now because, one, the Chileans are very pessimistic about their own team this season. Two, they lost Jefferson Sotelo, who I believe was going to be – no, he's not injured. He's not injured at all, but he would have been in this clash. So they lost Jefferson Sotelo, so that's an R+. And three, and this is kind of just a theory. Like, it's not – it doesn't mean it's true in any way. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen. But Peruvians have lost, the last – 15 matches in the Libertadores. I think this 16 and 17 is the lucky charm. I think this is the time the It has to be. No, but it's seriously, Melgar have lost a lot of players, and I'm not sure how they'll fare with this. But I do think that they are. I do think that they can do something here. Well, the Chile are weaker than. I think the Chileans are rightly pessimistic because they don't seem to have the best things about them this season. And I'm not gonna have my faith. I don't have a lot of faith, anyways, because the Peruvian sides. There's so many. They lose all the time, and in the club level, and I'm just not too optimistic. But I'm more optimistic than I would have been a few weeks ago. So yeah, hopefully Melgar finally break the Libertadores drought. They finally got to win a game again. I think they'll do. I think they will win at home. It's just away from home that I'm not sure if they're gonna lose the tie or not. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I do think at home they'll get something. What do you guys think?
Well, here's the thing. We all have followed Peruvian football for the majority of our lives. I think it's safe to say, right? We all know how this is going to end, don't we? Like, it doesn't matter what situation Melgar is in, they're going to lose in a heartbreaker. Like we know this is going to happen. And it doesn't matter how pessimistic that Chilean fans might be of UD Chile's chances in this tie. I know both sides aren't really all there offensively. I know that both sides kind of have their problems in those areas because they both lost some very key players. Obviously, Canchita for Melgar, a couple of other ones as well. I believe Tulio Echemaite left.
Yeah, Arce.
And Patricio Arce just recently left.
So I'd say Melgar have really just lost depth because I still think they have a very strong starting 11. But to me, they just lost depth. I think that they're going to have struggle with the backups. But they definitely, at the very least, they have a starting 11. That's the least I could say.
Yeah, but I mean, and also the positive news is that both teams do have new coaches. Frank Kudelka came in from Talleres to UD Chile.
I did see that. That is a good appointment.
That is a very good appointment. So both sides do have new coaches, obviously, which I think might be a bit of an X factor for both of them. But at the end of the day, Kudelka is a little more, I don't want to say battle tested, especially in the Libertadores, but UD Chile's players, for the vast majority, are. Like, they've been in that situation before recently. Bautazo, he hasn't had a lot of experience, if any, as a manager, like as the main guy. So you wonder how he'll fare on such a big stage, especially because Melgar does have a very passionate fan base in Arequipa. So there will be pressure there. But really, there isn't a lot separating these sides, which is what makes it so difficult to predict. But being a follower of Peruvian football for so long, I feel like Melgar is going to end up losing it through some freak accident or something. So, I mean, there's really no point in getting optimistic because we know how the story ends.
Yes.
You could see Casada channeling his inner Fernandez.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Kevin, what do you think of the game? What do you think of this game?
So, I don't know too much about UD Chile right now. I knew about Soteldo that he wasn't going to be for this match. Aside from that, I've seen Melgar lose quite a few players, so it's question marks on my end. I'm hoping for the best as always, but that's all I got for this game.
All right. Well, I think it's going to be an interesting clash. This is the first. I wanted to mention something, and it might come out as funny sounding, but. It is kind of a positive in the end and real. This is the first Libertadores. I'm sorry about the car, by the way. I don't know why they're racing outside. But no, this is the first Libertadores that Melgar played in years, many years, without Nilson Loyola. That could be a positive. It could be a positive because he's been the weak link in the Libertadores for a long time, and now he's not there. So maybe Melgar are better now. Who knows?
Yeah, possibly. Who knows? Maybe that was what was cursing them. Nilson Loyola was the curse.
Maybe. I just don't think that he was ready for that sort of situation. Maybe he'll impress at Goiás, like I said, but I don't have much faith in him. But no, I'm not gonna make any predictions for this one because I feel like Melgar can do it, but at the same time, I always feel that these teams can do it and they just don't. So yeah, okay. Well, we're done with that conversation. Before we end it, I wanted to just mention something really quickly because, like I said, I was kind of multitasking or triple tasking because I'm also doing the live tweets. But Alianza are looking pretty promising this season, and I'm thinking that they can actually get 5 points in the group, which I think will be a success. I mean, they're not going to make it through. That's a very tough group, but I think that they can. I think that they can definitely surprise a few and get like 4 or 5 points. That would be a very good. That would be a very good goal for them to set. I think with Miguel Angel Russo and actually a proper squad this time. So yeah, Alianza Lima are winning 1-0 against Barcelona at the moment. Is this the first night? Is this the first Noche Blanca you're going to win in years? I can't remember exactly, but it might be. So anyways, let's end the pod there. I just wanted to kind of get the little anecdote out before I ended it. My name is my name is Brian Birdie. I'm B_Bertie98 on Twitter. Kevin, what is your Twitter?
Mine is K Montalvan 7. I'm sorry,
right.
at Kim.
Okay. Peter, what are yours in the Peruvian Waltz?
Yes, you can follow me at Galindo PW and follow the Peruvian Waltz at Peru Waltz, and also subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, all the platforms that we are on. I'm sure you guys know by now.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for listening, and this is the Peruvian Waltz, and we're signing off.